Hey there, it's Laurel. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll have to apologize for my voice. I have this cold that will not go away, but I sound worse than I feel. So I'm going to be doing some stamping on an alcohol inked background today for you in my alcohol ink series. So first let's go ahead and make the actual background. Now I'm working with some latex gloves and some Yupo paper here, and I've cracked open my window and it's a very well ventilated area. So I don't have any of the foam felt things that Ranger has. So I just cut some really cheap felt that I had in a drawer, probably got from Michael's or Joann's or something. And I just cut up a bunch of little pieces and adhered them to the back of my blending tool, right there directly to the Velcro. It sticks just fine. This felt I've had in my craft room forever, and I don't use felt, so here you go. So the alcohol inks that I'm using are actually something I purchased off of Amazon from a recommendation from my friend Ruby. They are Pinata. It's a Pinata collection by Jacquard. I don't know. Anyway, it's linked below, but it comes in this fun pack and it has all these really bright, fun party colors. So I'm using those on my Yupo paper. I've not used any alcohol or anything yet. I'm just simply putting the alcohol ink onto the felt and then the felt onto the Yupo paper. I, most of the time, with the exception of the first two colors, I switch little pieces of felt so my colors don't blend together and turn muddy. Now here's the color I'm using from Ranger. It's the Patina. Hello, it's that turquoise. There's turquoise in everything I do. I do. There just has to be turquoise. I don't know. So I did use the Patina for Ranger, but everything else is that other brand I mentioned. And again, everything in the exact colors are linked below for you. So I'm almost done here. I wanted to create this pretty rainbow background. I'm really into rainbows lately. Y'all are probably sick of rainbows, but what can I say? When you like a rainbow, you like a rainbow. And there's nothing you can do about it. So this purple is such an intense purple. I just love it. You don't need a lot of that purple. But you can always go back over, if you want to darken up a color like I'm going to do right here with that Patina, you can always go back over and darken up your colors and so forth. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I get the brightness that I want, the depth of the color that I want, and then we're going to go in and add the alcohol. Now I'm just using regular rubbing alcohol from the store. I'm not using the blending solution or anything. And I did use this alcohol ink blending pen, and this is my first time using it, but I'm not a huge fan of it because as soon as I took the cap off, alcohol like flew out, and I did not overfill it. Alcohol flew out of the pen nibs. So I wasn't a huge fan, so I think I can get better control by using a Q-tip. But I made it work here. As Tim Gunn says, make it work. So now I'm going to go back in with some more felt and just kind of dab some of that alcohol that's on the Yupo paper around. Just a little bit. And if you remove too much because of the alcohol, you can just go and add some more. It's really just playing around and having a good time with it. I have my iPad off to the side and whatever, I'm just playing. Now to clean my mat, I'm working off of a glass mat, but I'm just using the same alcohol to clean it off. And then once it's dry, look at that. Look at all those designs just from the little sponging that we did with the felt. So now we're going to stamp right onto the Yupo paper and the alcohol inked background. And I'm using this stamp set from Altenew. And I'm going to go ahead and ink it up. The key to stamping on an alcohol ink background is to use a permanent ink. I'm using permanent black ink from Altenew, and I am using my Misty stamping tool. But I tell you, that Yupo paper is slippery, okay, because it's a very slick surface. So I'm going to, have a little crafty heart attack right here. I went ahead and did a double stamping to intensify those black lines, and oh my God, the paper moved. Do you see? So there's a little crafty heart attack going on right now. And I'm like, crap, I don't want to do all that over again. So I went ahead and stamped it a third time. And I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? What to do? So I decided to heat emboss. And I'm using Brutus Monroe Raven embossing powder. This is the only black embossing powder that I will ever use because this formulation of all his embossing powders contain no wax. So when I went ahead and sprinkled on this embossing powder, after I stamped it 3 times, after it shifted, whatever, I let my heat gun heat up really good, 20 seconds or so. I'm constantly moving my heat tool. You've got to keep it moving. Heat from the back, heat from the front, but just keep it moving. And once you're done, bam, you never know my Yupo paper slid around. That embossing powder just made that image nice and thick, crisp lines. So you'll never, ever, ever know, unless you watch this video, that I goofed. Oh, thank God. So now I'm going to use this Crafty Friend stamp set, also from Altenew. There were so many sentiment options on that set. I cropped out the video because there's like 5 minutes of deciding what sentiment to use. So I'm going to do some heat embossing. Again, I always use my anti-static tool thingamabob when I'm heat embossing, except on Yupo. And I'm going to use some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White heat embossing powder here. And I'll heat set that. I love white on black. You're probably so sick of seeing it, but I love it. Love it. And then you can kind of buff any of that excess powder away. If you don't have an anti-static tool, use some baby powder. It smells good too. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that down. I didn't stamp it straight, so I'm trimming it off and getting it straight and all well and good. I decided to trim 1/8 of an inch off of that alcohol inked background there because I wanted to incorporate some stripes. I don't know what it is with me and stripes lately, but if I could wear stripes from head to toe and paint stripes on my eyelids with some eyeshadow, I would. I don't know. Look at this awesome paper pad for my favorite things. Stripes. Stripes, stripes, stripes. Oh, anyway. So I went ahead and trimmed off a little bit of the stripes there. And I'm going to adhere it down. I'm trying to use up my colored cardstock. Do you guys hoard colored cardstock? Because I do. But anytime I do my stamping, it's always done on a white panel, and then I add color to it with inks or watercolor or whatever. So I don't really use cardstock or colored cardstock unless I'm using it as a base of a card, just so you know. Anyway, so I'm going to adhere that down with some multi-matte medium glue, just on that top corner there. And then I'm going to put a whole heap and ton of this double-sided tape on my alcohol inked background there. Because it's Yupo paper, it's warped from the heat, you need to put some really good glue down. So if you're going to glue it down direct, I would use something like Be Creative tape or something like that. Something super strong. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down. I'm going to have that little stripe peeking out there on the left-hand side. And then we have to assemble the sentiment strip, and then we're done. But wait, I need a little more stripe. So I'm going to take the other half of that striped that I cut, and I'm going to adhere it right down there to the bottom. It's going to be kind of like offsetting the sentiment underneath, a little peak of stripe underneath the sentiment, and then I'll be done. And that's it. That's how you stamp on alcohol inked backgrounds. Just make sure your paper doesn't move, and use caution because the Yupo paper is slippery. So even with my Misty stamping tool, it did shift. And I had the magnets. So just keep that in mind. Thank God I was able to save it. That Brutus Monroe embossing powder is magic, and I love it. And he's coming out with a whole bunch of colors that was announced at Creativation, and I can't wait. But here you go. Here's the look. So you can stamp on your alcohol inked backgrounds. Yeah, just don't let the paper shift. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.